So today's topic is going to be the continuation of algebraic division. In this case, we are going to see how to divide a polynomial by a monomial. It's very simple because it's like dividing a monomial by a monomial many times. So the steps it's going to be, or they are going to be the same. In this case, step number 1, it's the same. Apply the sign rule for division. Remember, sign rule tell us that if we have the same sign, it's going to be a positive answer. If we have different signs, it's going to be a negative answer. The second step is that we will need to divide the coefficient or numbers. Remember that when we have fraction, we will always need to simplify it. So that's a very important part. We will need to simplify when possible. Always, when possible, simplify the coefficients. Number 3, or step 3, it's going to do the subtraction of exponents. Remember, the general rule tells us that from the numerator, we are going to subtract the denominator. If we got a negative answer, like a negative power at the end, we will write it as a positive one in the denominator. Or we can do it also in other way. If we are familiar with doing this kind of exercise, we can subtract wherever we have the bigger value, we can subtract the smallest value, and that value will stay with the higher value is. That means that if we have a bigger number in numerator than denominator in a power, it will stay in numerator, and vice versa. If we have the bigger number in the denominator, the answer will stay in the denominator. And remember, because it's making many times these three steps, we will have a fourth step that it's repeating from 1 until 4. And at the end, because we will get many terms, it will be very important to order our answers. Because remember, if we don't order our answers, our process will be incorrect. So the most important part of today is to remember that we will need to order our answers. So let's see some examples of dividing polynomial by monomial. So our first example is something like this. We have a polynomial divided by a monomial. So the process is going to be very similar. We will do the division of monomials but many times. So we are going to start with the first one, 20 over 2. So we can simplify it, and it's going to be 10x, and it's going to be 8 minus 2. The second one is going to be minus, because minus divided by plus is a minus. 10 divided by 2, it's 5. It's going to be x to the 5 minus 2. Then it's going to be plus, because plus divided by positive, it's going to be a positive one. So it's going to be 4x to the 7 minus 2. And finally, minus, because minus divided by plus is minus. 18 divided by 2, it's 9x, and it's going to be 3 minus 2. So we will get 10x to the 6th minus 5x cubed plus 4x to the 5th minus 9x to the 1, that we don't need to put the number 1. And remember, it's very important, we will need to order our answer. So in this case, the bigger power is x to the 6. Then we will continue with x to the 5. Then we will continue with x cubed. And finally with x. So this is going to be our final and ordered answer. So as we saw, it's very simple to do polynomial by monomial, because it's the same like monomial by monomial, but many times. And at the end, we will need to order our answer. So let's see another example. So the next exercise, it's very similar one. We have a polynomial divided by a monomial. So it will be by like dividing a monomial with monomial many times. So we can start with the first term. In this case, 12 and 6. Well, positive and positive is going to be positive 1. 12 over 6, it's only 2. Then it's going to be a6 minus 2, b to the 5 minus 1. Then it's going to be negative, because negative divided by positive, it's going to be negative. Then it's going to be 3 over 6. We can simplify it like 1/2. Then it's going to be a to the 4th minus 2, b to the 6 minus 1. Then it's going to be 24 over 6. Well, plus over plus, it's positive 1. 24 divided by 6, it's 4. Then we will have a to the 5 minus 2, b to the 3 minus 1. And finally, 2 over 6, it's going to be 1/3 of a to the 2 minus 2, b to the 7 minus 1. So we will get something like 2a to the 4th, b to the 4th, minus 1/2 of a squared, b to the 5th. Then we will get something like a 4a to the 3rd, b to the 2nd or squared, minus 1/3. A, it's going to be eliminated because it will be a to the 0, so we will get v to the 6. So in this case, remember, the most important part is like at the end we will need to order our answers. Remember, we use alphabetical and descending order of powers. So in this case, we will start with those that have a, but with the biggest power. So we'll start with 2a to the 4th, b to the 4th, then plus 4a to the 3rd, or a cubed, b squared, then minus 1/2 of a squared, v to the 5th, and now finally this term, because it doesn't have a, minus 1/3 of v to the 6th. And this is going to be our final and ordered answer. So in this case, it's the same process, dividing a monomial by monomial many times, and at the end we will need to order our results. Let's see another example. So in this exercise, it's very similar. We have a polynomial divided by a monomial, so we can start with the first term and then with the next ones. So in this case, the first one, it's positive because it's positive divided by positive. 5 over 10, it's 1/2. It's going to be x to the 2 minus 1, y to the 5 minus 3. Then it's going to be minus, because minus divided by minus. 20 over 10, it's 2. It's going to be x to the 6 minus 1. Y, it's going to be 3 minus 3. Then it's going to be minus 35 over 10. We can divide it by 5, so it's going to be 7 halves. It's going to be x to the 6 minus 1, y to the 2 minus 3. Finally, we will have 2 over 10, that it's going to be 1/5 of x to the 8 minus 1, and y to the 1 minus 3. So in this case, we can continue doing it. It's going to be 1/2 of x, y squared minus 2 x to the 5th, y to the 0, so it disappears, minus 7 halves of x to the 5th, y to the minus 1, plus 1/5 of x to the 7, y to the minus 2. So in this case, remember, we will need to order a result, and also we cannot have negative value in powers. So let's see what we need to do. So we can maybe start by ordering it. So we will need to use descending order of powers. So we are going to start with this one, that it's x to the 7. So it's going to be the first one, minus 1/5, x to the 7, y minus 2. Then we will use this one, that it's 7/2 of x to the 5th, y to the minus 1. Then minus 2x to the 5th plus 1/2 of x y squared. Remember, we cannot have negative powers, so it will be something like x to the 7 divided by 5y squared minus 7x to the 5th over 2y minus 2x to the 5th plus 1/2 of x y squared. And this is going to be our final unordered answer without negative powers. So remember, at the end we will need to don't have negative powers, and we will also need to put it in descending order of powers. This is one form of doing it, but there is also another form of doing it. Maybe if we are familiar of doing this kind of exercise, we can do it like from the beginning, like 5/10, it's going to be 1/2. Then it's going to be x y squared minus, it's going to be 2, that it's going to be x to the 5th. Then it's going to be minus 7/2 of x. Well, in this case, it will be 7/2 of x to the 5th. Y, it's bigger on the bottom parts. 3 minus 2 is 1, so it will be here. Plus, it's going to be 2/10, that it's 1/5 x to the 7th, because it's x to the 8 minus x. Y to the 3, it's bigger in the bottom part, so it will be 3 minus 1, so it will be y squared. So if you see here, these two of them are the same ones. So it's up to you. Maybe you can do it on one simple step, or you can do all the steps you need. And we will need to order it. So our answer is going to be x to the 7 divided by 5y squared minus 7 x to the 5th over 2y minus 2x to the 5th plus 1/2 of xy squared. In this case, these two of them can change in order, because the first one has x and y and the other one has only x. So maybe we can put it like this: minus 2x squared minus 7x to the 5th over 2y. And also in this one, because remember, if we have an alone letter with the same power, we will put it first. So in this case, it's going to be 2x to the 5th minus 7/2 of x to the 5 over y. So remember, if we have the x to the 5th and x to the 5 with y, it will be first only x to the 5th. So that was a little mistake made by me, but remember, we will need to order it, because if not, it will be incorrect at the end. So let's see another example. So the next example is something like this. We have fractions, but the process is the same. Remember, it's like dividing monomial by monomial. So in this case, it's going to be the first one, it's going to be dividing 27/4 over 3/2. So we can put it like 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 over 2 multiplied by 2. We can flip this one. So we can put it like 2 over 3. So we can eliminate this 3 with this 3, this 2 with this 2. So it will be something like 9 halves. So we will get 9 halves, a to the 5 minus 1, b to the 2 minus 1. The next one is going to be negative 1 because it's negative divided by positive. Then we will get 9 halves divided by 3 halves. So it will be something like 3 multiplied by 3 over 2 multiplied by 2 over 3. So we can simplify this 2 with this 2, this 3 with this 3. So we will get 3 a to the 6 b to, I'm sorry, a to the 6 minus 1, b to the 3 minus 1. Finally, it's going to be 18 fifths divided by 3 halves. So it's going to be 2 divided by 3 multiplied by 3 over 5. We can flip it. So it's going to be multiplied for 2 thirds. So we can eliminate a third with a third. So it's going to be 12 over 5. 12 over 5. And it's going to be a to the 4th minus 1, b to the 5th minus 1. So we will get something like 9 halves of a to the 4th v minus 3 a to the 5th v squared plus 12 over 5 a cubed v to the 4th. Then we will need to order our answers. Remember, descending order of power. So this is going to be the first one. The second one is going to be this one. And finally, 12 over 5th of a cubed v to the 4th. And this is going to be our final and ordered answer. So it doesn't matter, we have fractions, the process is the same. We will need to divide every monomial by monomial, and at the end we will need to order our results. So let's see one last example. So in the last example, we are going to have letters in the exponents, but it's the same, don't worry, it's going to be the same. So remember, it's dividing a monomial with a monomial many times. So we can start with the first one, 36 over 12, it's 3. So it's going to be 3. Then we will have x to the a plus 5 minus a plus 1. Y, it's going to be b minus 3 minus b. Then the second term, it's going to be 4 over 12. We can divide it by 4, so it's going to be 1/3 of x to the 5 minus a plus 1, y to the b plus 2 minus b, and finally plus 24 over 12, it's 2, x to the a plus 3 minus a plus 1, y to the 1 minus b. So we will get something like, remember, the minus sign changes both signs, so it's going to be minus a minus 1. Here we can eliminate v and v, so it will be y minus 3. Then we will get something like 1/3 of x to the 5 minus a minus 1. Y, it's going to be b minus v, so it's going to be 2 plus 2x to the a plus 3 minus a minus 1 y to the 1 minus 2v. So let's see, we will get something like 3x a minus a. We can eliminate it, so it will be 5 minus 1, so it's going to be x to the 4th y to the minus 3 minus 1/3 of minus a, so it will be x to the 4 minus 2a y squared plus 2x a minus a. We can eliminate it. 3 minus 2, it's 2 y to the 1 minus 2v. So remember, we will need to order our result by descending order of powers. So in this case, remember, if we have x and y, we will start with those that have x, and if we have letters in the exponents, we are going to start with those ones. If so, in this case, this is going to be the first one because it has x and letters in the exponent. So it will be minus 1/3 of x to the 4th minus 2a y squared. The second one, it's going to be plus 3x to the 4th. This y to the minus 3 must go to the bottom part because we will need to put it as a positive one. And finally, plus 2x squared y to the 1 minus 2v. And this is going to be our final and ordered result. In this case, maybe the first and the second term can change in order, because maybe you can set like a 4 minus 2a, it's bigger than only 4, but we don't know if a has a value that it's positive 1 or negative 1. So that's why we are putting first the one that has 4 minus 2a that has a letter as an exponent, and then the one that has only the number as an exponent. So this is going to be our final and ordered answer. So you can now do activity number 2. Thank you, and you will see, or we will see on the next topic.